Hi, everybody. Today we are going to create a series of figurative abstractions. And in a meanwhile, we will talk a little bit about abstract art, okay? And for that, we will need paper, pencil, sharpener, eraser, paint. It can be acrylic, watercolor, or the one that you are more comfortable with. Brushes, markers, something to mix the paint, water, cloth, ruler, or some other materials that might help you with your composition. Okay, so abstraction is a genre of art that moves away from realistic representations and instead focuses on shapes, colors, forms, and textures to evoke ideas, concepts, and above all, emotions. It can tackle the natural world, but differently from figurative art, it relies more on interpretation and imagination. So before we talk about abstract art, let's talk a little bit about art itself. Visual arts, like painting to be precise. Not everything that is visual is necessarily art. Compare it to when you are hungry. Biologically, you only need food, right? Like any food will do. And it does not have to taste good or look appealing. Biologically, it just has to have the needed nutrients. So why do we simply don't eat anything? Why do we often choose? Because eating is more than simply consuming food. It is an experience. It is a ritual that goes far from the biological need to stop feeling hungry. We don't just need to be fed, we also need to feel satisfied. So the same thing happens with art. So allow me please to say it again. Not everything that is visual is necessarily art. Art does not communicate through visuals. At least there is a limit to how far visuals can seduce you. Art communicates through feelings. That is why art doesn't have to be beautiful. It only has to make you feel something. It has to make you feel something. And often, the art that makes you feel something comes from feelings. The material used, like the canvas, the paint, the brushes, everything, all those are just the means to materialize minimally what the artist is feeling at the moment of creating their art. So when it comes to your own art, it doesn't matter if you're doing it as a hobby or professionally. If feelings aren't your primal material to create, you're not creating art, you're just creating decoration. That's why this is art and this is decor. That's why this is studied, investigated, and this is just something that is mass-produced. This is art, and this is just a colorful object. I hope that was clear. So back to the topic. If your goal is to represent feelings more than to interpret the visual world, then abstraction might be a good way for you to explore. However, abstraction should not be just about a random composition, okay? If you treat your composition as something random or simply try to imitate someone else's abstractions, without knowing the concept or pathway that led to that particular work, your own work will be empty. And because we are talking about feelings, I don't believe I can teach you how to create abstract art because I cannot teach you how to feel. And no one can. No one can. And I can talk about love, but I cannot teach you how to love. I can talk about hate, pain, joy, pleasure, fear, bravery, anything. But if those aren't inside you, you will hear my words, but you won't feel anything. That's why I can only share how I process my feelings through art, and hopefully it will inspire you to find your own way to express yours through your own art. Yeah, so I hope this was clear. There are a few myths around abstract art, but three of them in particular have got to be clearly understood. Okay? One, people often think that abstract art is simple or requires less skill because it lacks the recognition of the subjects that it is representing. In reality, abstract art often requires deep technical mastery as artists work with complex elements like color, shape, texture, and composition, creating meaningful, non-representational work that can be more challenging than traditional forms because it demands a nuanced understanding of how to evoke emotion and meaning without relying on recognizable images. Imagine like going to a foreign country where you don't speak the language and they have, those different characters like Thailand, okay? How do you communicate, okay? You have got to go gestural. You have got to go, working your way in order to be understood. So abstraction is like that, okay? You have got to work your way in order to be read, in order to be understood. The other myth is that there is this assumption that abstract artists lack the ability to produce, realistic or figurative works. In reality, many abstract artists are highly skilled in figurative art, but chose abstraction as a way to explore new creative possibilities. Artists like Kandinsky or Pollock could produce detailed, realistic art, but their work evolved toward abstraction to express different ideas and emotions beyond the limitations of representation. And the third myth is that many people believe that abstract art is completely disconnected from the real world, when in reality, abstract art does not always tackle recognizable objects or scenes, but it can still evoke real-world experiences, emotions, concepts. For example, the use of color and form can symbolize feelings, ideas, or natural elements. Even in highly abstract works, the artist may be conveying themes, inner states, or interpretations of the world that don't rely on literal representation. So I'm leaving a few more information in the description of the video because I don't want it to be extra long. But I'm going to tackle just a few tips for creating abstract art. The first one is go big. The larger the canvas, the more powerful will be the impact of it. So don't hesitate, make it big. Secondly, embrace layers, because unlike figurative art, abstract pieces often evolve through layers. So your initial marks might even be hidden beneath subsequent layers of paint, but that depth adds richness and beauty even when it's not fully visible. Don't overdo it. You don't need to fill every inch of the canvas. Focus on the areas that are truly important, the areas that truly matter, and let this space breathe. And finally, create more than one. Don't stop at your first. You don't have to pour all your emotions into a single canvas, okay? If you are in the mood for creating abstract art, aim for at least 4 of them. You don't have to keep every piece, but creating multiple works will allow you to explore and refine your feelings, ensuring that the final result captures the essence of what you want to express. So next week, we will take it a little bit further and we will be creating larger format abstract works based on the principles and guidelines that we explored today. As always, keep on practicing and thank you for joining us.